Section 5 of Stories for God's Little Ones by Father John Koenig. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Maria Therese. Puff, Wrinkle, and Squint. Our story begins at breakfast in the home of a boy named Jerry who had a 4-year-old sister, Terry. Jerry was forever teasing Terry, especially with mean old faces. Over his cereal bowl this particular day, he put on one of his mean old faces. He puffed out his cheeks, he wrinkled his nose, he squinted his eyes. Over her cereal bowl, it was a mean old sight for Terry to see. Over her second cup of coffee, Jerry's mother caught him in the act and said, "If that face ever freezes, you'll be mighty sorry." Jerry just laughed and on the sly went right on teasing, because after breakfast and before lunch and during lunch he was at it again. It was during lunch his mother caught him again and said once more, "If that face ever freezes, you'll be mighty sorry." But Jerry just laughed, and as soon as his mother turned her back, he put on one of his meanest faces. He wrinkled his nose, he puffed out his cheeks, he squinted his eyes, and he was just about to stick out his tongue when the dreadful thing happened. His face, without the slightest warning, froze tight, rubbery tight, but tight just the same. He couldn't get the wrinkle out of his nose, he couldn't get the puff out of his cheeks, he couldn't get the squint out of his eyes. Puff, wrinkle, squint were there to stay. It was a blessing he hadn't stuck out his tongue, because he wouldn't have been able to get it in again. With a scream, he called to his mother. Quick as could be, she pressed in his cheeks, but pop! Out they puffed again. She smoothed out the wrinkles, but crinkle, crinkle, they marched right back again. She stretched away the squint, but blink-o-blink, it bounced right back again. His face was frozen tight, and that meant the mean expression had frozen there to stay. A frozen face is bad enough, but a frozen face with a mean expression is 80 times worse. Don't you agree? Right after nap time there came a call for Jerry. One of his playmates wanted him to come out to play. Jerry's mother answered the call and said, "Jerry isn't coming out today." You can easily guess the reason why. He didn't want his playmates to see that mean, squinty look frozen on his face. Can you blame him for that? "Maybe tomorrow, Bobby," said Jerry's mother. As she closed the door, she whispered a quick prayer that God make it so. Jerry sat in his room near the window. He couldn't even ask his playmates in to play, because who wanted to look at mean, squinty eyes or a wrinkled nose or a puffed-out face? It was the kind of a face you see at Halloween. The big difference was, Jerry couldn't take it off and hide it in the drawer. "If only I could," he sighed to himself. At that precise moment, Jerry's grandfather wandered past the window, puttering among the shrubbery. Ever since grandmother had gone home to God, he had lived with Jerry. Jerry knew his grandfather must be very wise, because often he heard his mother and father asking him questions. Perhaps Grandpa knew the secret of melting frozen faces, Jerry thought. Whereupon he leaned out the window and called, "Grandpa, could you help me get my right face back again?" Grandpa stopped his puttering. He looked at Jerry kindly but seriously and said, "Were I you, Ciampino," the name he often called Jerry, "I would try 2 things." "You would, Grandpa?" questioned Jerry intently. "I would tell God I'm sorry," went on Grandpa. Then he used a favorite word of his, "powerfully sorry." "And after that," continued Grandpa, "I would be specially kind to my little sister." He clipped a dead twig from the azalea bush and added, "And I guess that would be it." And that was it as far as Jerry was concerned, because no sooner had Grandpa moved along the shrubbery row than Jerry in his seat by the window began praying, "Dear God, I'm sorry for teasing Terry with my mean old faces, powerfully sorry." Jerry knew all along it was teasing and meanness that brought the frozen face. Now he knew it was kindness that could melt the freeze away. "If only it would," he said to himself. In this proper mood, Jerry walked into the rumpus room. The puff, the wrinkle, the squint went right along with him. Wherever Jerry went, they were sure to go. So it is with frozen faces. Terry was playing all alone with her dollhouse. Other times Jerry would wander by and teasingly push over some of the furniture. Other times, but not this time. He sat down beside her instead and told her where he thought the television piece should go. And so they began to play house together. And in a wink it happened. The puff in his cheeks just puffed itself away, for all at once the puff was gone, and Jerry's cheeks were all unpuffed again. Later that afternoon, Jerry's mother asked him if he would go upstairs and get the music box, because Terry wanted to listen to it. "Sure, Mom," answered Jerry, whose face wore only the wrinkle and the squint, and away he went. But he had taken only one step when he felt his nose go a tingle and a stretch, and just like that the wrinkle stretched himself away. At supper that night it was ice cream for dessert. As Jerry's mother was getting ready to dish it out, Jerry, now wearing only the squint, said, "Terry first, Mom." That did it, for no sooner were the words out than popsicle! The squint faded completely away, and with that the puff, wrinkle, and squint were gone. The meaning old expression had melted all away. That was 3 months ago, and not once in all that time has Jerry's mother had to say, "If that face ever freezes, you'll be mighty sorry." Because not once has Jerry put on that mean old face to tease his little sister. If you ask Jerry the reason why, he'll say, "Maybe the frozen face might come back again. Maybe I wouldn't find the way to melt it away. And besides, God doesn't like it." Which, of course, is the biggest reason of all. And so I think it's safe to say that the puff, the wrinkle, and the squint have gone away to stay. End of Puff, Wrinkle, and Squint.